Well, the Secretary of Education for the United States was in town yesterday, visiting with Governor J.B. Pritzker at Fairview Elementary School in Springfield, where they talked a little bit about education policy, but took a few questions from members of the media. And that's Miguel Cardona, also the governor there as well, talking with education officials and playing with the kids at Fairview and climbing a rock wall and so on. But the governor obviously having to take some questions from members of the media, but also we'll hear from Shannon Adcock, a Wake, Illinois founder, about parents' rights and the concerns that parents still have when it comes to ensuring that they have, agency over their children. Instead of the schools having agency over their children. So let's go ahead and hear what Miguel Cardona, the U.S. Secretary of Education, and Governor J.B. Pritzker had to say yesterday when they were in front of cameras and ultimately talking about the goals they have for further educating the children of the country.
Thank you very much. I want to begin by saying it is great to be here at Fairview Elementary with the Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona. And honestly, the Secretary's been here several times to the state of Illinois, and most importantly, he's come right to schools to meet the kids and teachers. And here we are at an after-school program scope that's also got engagement with the community and, very importantly, with the kids who really need the after-school program. And by the way, great kids, and the teachers who are operating the program are second to none. So I'm pleased to have you here, Secretary, and of course I want to say to everybody, thank goodness we have a Secretary of Education and Department of Education in Washington that's doing a great job of lifting up our schools and, most importantly, our students all across the nation.
Thank you so much, Governor. I really appreciate that. You know, we're doing a tour called Raise the Bar, Lead the World, because that's how we look at education now. You know, opening the doors and turning the lights back on is insufficient. We need to raise the bar. We need to lead the world. And I'm here today, thank you, Governor, for being here. More importantly, thank you for the focus on education that you've had as governor, early childhood education, supporting programs like this one, supporting pathways. Look, we have an opportunity in this country to elevate outcomes for our students in literacy, numeracy, and conditions for learning and mental health supports, ensuring that our teachers are fairly compensated, and then we address the shortage of teachers across the country. We have an opportunity to create college and career pathways in our high school that connect to our 2-year programs, 4-year programs, and our workforce with all the Invest in America policies that have been passed. And I'm excited as we open school for another year to really talk about what our plan is. There's a lot of people that want to create division in education. I want to talk about our plan, what we're doing to raise the bar across the country, give students an opportunity to be successful. And that includes after-school programs. That includes partnerships with community assets like the Boys and Girls Club, making sure that students have a safe place to go after school, where they can learn, grow, and continue to follow their dreams. I'm excited to be here. Love being around students. That climbing wall almost had me. I couldn't do it. But again, I want to thank the educators and the leaders that are here for committing to the students and giving them a best shot to succeed.
So again, that's Miguel Cardona with Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday at Fairview Elementary here in Springfield. Cardona hit up a few schools down in Missouri and then made his way further up north in Springfield. And I think also last night he was at a school in Peoria. But coming up here, we'll hear some of the questions and the answers that they had. But before Cardona and Pritzker made their stop in Springfield, I connected with the Wake, Illinois founder, Shannon Adcock, and asked her for kind of her thoughts as they prepared for these education officials to be in Springfield. Here's some of what she had to say in a conversation I had with her yesterday.
Over the last couple of years, certainly our organization, Awake Illinois, has been at the forefront in our state on championing integrity in education, improving educational outcomes for children, and of course, supporting the fundamental rights of parents to direct the upbringing and education and healthcare of their children. And so Secretary Cardona coming here for this Raise the Bar bus tour is really interesting. And I think it's important for people to remember, or perhaps be informed for the first time, that U.S. Secretary of Education Cardona actually personally requested the letter that is now infamous that came from the National School Board Association, which they have since apologized for, that called parents domestic terrorists purely for elevating their concerns on children, on the poor literacy scores across the country. And certainly Illinois is at the top of being really one of the worst rated literacy scores in public education in the country. So when I was looking at the tour itinerary of Secretary Cardona, it's really interesting that he has tagged along with the teacher unions, which we know are notoriously for politics and not for literacy, not for education. And I didn't see on the itinerary anything that had to do with supporting parental rights in education or literacy, phonics. Why aren't we talking about that type of programming? Most of this programming appears to be highly in the woke realm and the equity realm, which we know all of the above are failing our children. Yeah, so my appeal would be, just like Awake Illinois has petitioned to Secretary Cardona with our national letters of coalition letters over the last couple of years, please put the education, the academic outcomes of children first, not political agendas, not activism in the classroom, but academic focus. And I would hope that they would talk about the poor literacy rates in the cities that they are visiting today, in Springfield, in Peoria, in Rockford, where you have, you talk about equity. We have children in Peoria school districts. The Black students are only 7% reading at grade level. That is a failure. So I would hope they would start talking about literacy, about proficiency, and how they're going to actually focus on academic outcomes in the classroom, not political activism, not waging continued war on parental rights, and really to be, ideally, they would have extended an olive branch to parental rights organizations like Awake Illinois, like Moms for Liberty, for which I chair a chapter, and to really show that you are going to be partnered with parents on these concerns. But unfortunately, they say it's raised the bar. The bar has been subterranean for too many years. It can really go up, but I think that parents are still very concerned about the outcomes for their children in education. And I would hope that every stakeholder is talking about improving literacy and getting phonics and the science of reading back into our classrooms.
So again, that's Shannon Adcock, founder of Awake Illinois, a parents' rights group, and some of the conversation I had with her before Cardona and Pritzker arrived in Springfield. Coming back, we'll hear Pritzker respond to those questions about proficiency and how they could possibly improve on that. We'll also talk about gender ideology and get Cardona's response to Congresswoman Mary Miller's statement released yesterday. So all of that's still on the way here with Bishop on Air.
But unfortunately, they say it's raised the bar. The bar has been subterranean for too many years. It can really go up, but I think that parents are still very concerned about the outcomes for their children in education. And I would hope that every stakeholder is talking about improving literacy and getting phonics and the science of reading back into our classrooms.
Shannon Adcock with Awake Illinois talking about school proficiency. And if you look at Illinois State Board of Education's website, you'll see the average proficiency across the states. It's not the best. I mean, like a third of students are reading at grade level, for instance. And when you drill down and start looking at some of the actual school districts, it's even worse, with some areas in the high single digits for proficiency, other areas in the low double digits for proficiency in math and reading and science. So there's obviously concerns about the overall proficiency and efficiency of schools and teaching children. Well, I asked the governor yesterday when he made a stop in Springfield with U.S. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona about that, about the concerns parents have that not enough attention is being focused on proficiency and getting kids up to speed. Here's the governor reacting to that question.
Well, across the country, and I know, Governor, I'll give you an opportunity. You want to?
I do. I just want to respond. I mean, remember, we set our own standards state by state by state. So when Florida claims, for example, to have more kids that are at reading level, at a grade level, they set their standard low. And guess what? They exceed it. We set our standards high in Illinois, and we want our kids to strive, and our parents and our teachers to strive for those high standards. So it's improper to use those kind of statistics against the state of Illinois. Look, we always want to do better. We want our kids to do better. And in fact, we've invested in doing that in the state of Illinois. And I want to credit the federal government, because in the face of COVID-19 and all the challenges that parents, teachers, schools face, they stepped up to the plate and they helped the state of Illinois, not to mention every state in the country, to address any learning loss that occurred. Well, we've been at this for several years now. As I took office in 2019, very importantly, we were underfunding schools that were most in need. And so we've changed the trajectory of that with the evidence-based funding model, sending more money to schools that need it most. And very recently, in fact, in this fiscal year right now, we've now sent more dollars to those schools, to the 170 schools that have many, many teacher vacancies, to help them attract teachers in whatever way a school district can. And I think every school district is a little bit different, where they're going to attract those teachers from, how they're going to do it, what they need to provide. Sometimes it's housing, sometimes it's a stipend. Sometimes it's something else. And we want those school districts to make those decisions. So more and better teachers and making sure that we're investing in the schools that have been left out for so many years.
So the governor obviously asked questions about proficiency and how to go about making up that learning loss, but also the question about funding, and especially COVID funding that's meant to go towards making up for that COVID learning loss when the governor closed schools. That money's drying up here soon. So the governor was asked about that yesterday as well. And again, here's the governor sounding off more on school funding and what he plans to do with the federal dollars soon to dry up.
Well, again, it's supposed to be a temporary program to help particularly with overcoming learning loss, and we continue to expend those dollars. In fact, I was just talking to the superintendent about after-school tutoring here at this school in particular, which is vitally important for a number of kids. We have a plan, and that is to continue to fund our education system more properly every single year so that the decisions about what a school district needs get to be made by the school district and by the individual schools and teachers themselves. During my term as governor, we've increased funding in the state for schools by $2 billion. That's a significant amount on top of what had been about $9 billion going to schools. And we're going to continue to do it. And again, it's with the specific endeavor of lifting up the kids who are left behind. Because we know there are school districts where they are fully funded. They're able to take care of the programs that they need to continue. But in many school districts, that's not the case. And we just can't let that continue.
So again, the governor taking a few questions, and that's focused on the issue of, education funding and trying to make up learning loss and so on. But what about the issue of what some see as, quote, radical gender ideology being pumped into the schools? Here's a headline that you're hearing about this morning. A California judge blocks school district's policy notifying parents of child's gender status change. A California judge temporarily blocked a local school district in California with their policy to notify parents when their child identifies as transgender after the state's attorney there sued the school district in California. So the issue of, transgender ideology very much still top of mind for people. And even Congresswoman Mary Miller from Illinois, she released a statement saying that Cardona and Pritzker oppose parental rights and believe young children should be indoctrinated with radical gender ideology politics in the classroom behind their parents' backs, and also went on to raise concerns about Title IX. Title IX is the national education policy that prohibits sex discrimination in education that have activities or programs getting federal tax resources. On the issue of gender ideology, Miller said that Pritzker and Cardona have led the efforts to force the issue onto families, like, for instance, forcing daughters to compete against men in sports or forcing men into girls' locker rooms and bathrooms. Shannon Adcock, when I talked with her, she concurred with Mary Miller's comments and said that it's something that all parents are really concerned about.
I agree with Representative Miller on her concerns. And, we did do a coalition letter last year to Secretary Cardona on the, attempt to rewrite Title IX. And we know that that's going to be coming out in October from the Biden administration. So certainly we've had a poll. I agree with Representative Miller on her on that battle quite publicly. And it was a huge loss for the Pritzker agenda to continue tyranny on children and on liberty. And so with the, now infamous court case that was led by attorney Thomas DeVore, and I was a parent on that case along with hundreds and hundreds of other parents in the state of Illinois. I think that we really nipped that and we show that we are going to absolutely use the power of the people to defend our due process rights. So this will be maybe localized issues that come up, but this has always been guidance. We've always known that to be true. And I think parents and communities, taxpayers, and policymakers and school boards are actually more empowered now to not bow to that tyranny and to move forward. Because look, if you look at Cardona's itinerary, so much of this has to do with recovering from the COVID pandemic education loss in the classroom. And now you're really going to try and double down and put more mitigations in place when these poor children need to learn how to read and how to do arithmetic at grade level. I don't think we're going to fight that fight in Illinois, but certainly I think when you see the war on biological truth, on boys invading girls' spaces, private spaces, this is a huge concern going into the fall, and we're certainly going to be keeping an eye on anything that the Biden administration and the Secretary of Education is going to do regarding Title IX.
So you hear Adcock there talk about the war on biological truth, but she also talked a little bit about the concerns that Miller raised about possibly bringing back what she called, quote, illegal COVID mask mandates. Now, when we had asked Pritzker about that last week, Pritzker denied that he's going to bring back mandates, saying it's Facebook fakery if that is being talked about. But to the issue of the transgender ideology concerns, Cardona, he brushed that off. He said that that's disruptive.
Just hang out with students. See what's happening, listen to students, listen to teachers, listen to parents. That type of behavior, I wish it was here. That type of behavior is what I think is an intentional attempt to disrupt public education. Parents are done with that. They want to, what is your plan to help students achieve at a higher level? What is your plan to give students access to higher education without having to be caught in debt for the rest of your life? We have a plan. Raise the bar, lead the world. That's our plan. We're not going to get distracted with naysayers that they don't even have a plan. They just want to disrupt what's happening. When I talk to parents, when I talk to educators, and when I talk to students, they're not thinking about what she's thinking about. They're thinking about what opportunities they have. And it's our job to make sure that we have a clear plan for academic success for our students, for pathways into college and career, and that we stay true to that plan. We're not going to get distracted with nonsense.
Well, regardless, Adcock, she says that parents need to continue standing up and make sure that their voices are heard.
No, I would just encourage parents and communities to remain steadfast in preserving your due process rights and being empowered to, preserve your parental rights in education and to really be the barrier between your child and any agenda that is going to try and indoctrinate or harm your child. So at awakeil.com/forms, there are a few forms that parents can submit to get on the record with school districts and to have a conversation on your expectations for your child's academic journey in the public school system. Highly encourage parents to take a look at those and to use them.
So the back and forth about education continues just as the school year gets into full swing across the country, and I think something that will continue to be debated on and on and on. We'll do what we can to dip into that debate and give you all the sides. It is Bishop on Air, Springfield's Morning News on WMAY. Follow me anywhere, Bishop on Air on X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, watch live, watch the segments, subscribe, like, all of that jazz.